Moving on from I mean, this is absolutely going to be a big football podcast, especially this week with the NFL starting up. Next week's got or at least this Saturday, we've got the LFL and their Legends Cup coming up with Chicago and with Austin. And we did just get done talking and discussing about the NFL and about week one in the regular season, mostly the 49ers, but week one in the regular season all together. And when I walked into the studio, my sound guy, you looked at me and you were like, "Hey Zach, what's up?" And I was like, "Nothing, just coming in to do work. Everything's set up, everything on the board, good, ready to go." And he goes, "Yeah, did you hear your girl won the MVP?" And I was like, "Who?" I'm trying to think to myself exactly what he means by your girl just won the MVP. Because at this rate in time, I'm thinking to myself, does he think I'm married? Does he think that I'm dating like a basketball star or something like that? And I'm confused as to what his meaning is. And he goes, "Yeah, Michelle Angel, she wins MVP." And I was like, "Well, first of all, I'm not. Well, actually, I did just. Fuck. Well, I told him I wasn't going to say that, or I wasn't going to say, yeah, my girl won the MVP. Yeah, I said I wasn't going to say that on air. Otherwise, Michelle Angel would come to Port Washington and fucking kill me. Uh, but seeing as that has been stated, I just found it a funny little interaction this morning. And well, congratulations to Michelle Angel for winning MVP of the LFL this year. Absolutely well deserved. Uh, and we'll get to her impact on the Mist in a couple of minutes. Um, I wanted to play a little game, especially with the Legends Cup coming up this Saturday. It'll be the final LFL game of the season. Um, I am looking forward to it, yes. Um, a lot of people kind of putting Austin down, giving them absolutely no chance of beating the Bliss. But at the same time, it's kind of a case of this. I think it'll be a closer game than everyone's expecting. I still think the Bliss will win, but I think it'll be a closer game than everyone expects. So, maybe a 43 to 29 game or something like that. Uh, Either way, when it comes down to it, I took every one of the 8 teams from the LFL and I wanted to describe each team in 3 words or less. It's what Colin Cowherd does with the NBA and the NFL, but with the LFL, I like it primarily for the fact that there is so much you can say with 3 words rather than having to go into a whole explanation. If I were to say, head coaching problems for a team, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. You'd know exactly where I was headed. It wasn't a coordinator, possibly wasn't even a head coach. It would just be whatever in that moment was absolutely accurate to what I was describing at that point in time. That would be, you would understand what I'd be saying. I'll still describe it no matter what, but I like the 3 word game a lot. It's one of my favorite segments that Colin Cowherd does in a year. So, I, of course, being the individual that I am, wanted to go down every single team in the LFL and describe them in 3 words or less. We're going to start from the teams that I thought were poor in the season and move up to our conference champions going into the Legends Cup this year. So, first up, we're going to have the Denver Dream. And my 3 words for this are Rocky Mountain Bye. I don't think. Let's put it this way: Denver was absolutely pathetic this season. Brittany Perea came in for the final starts of the season. I forgot who. I think it was Mary Towner that was it was Mary Towner that was the starting quarterback for the Dream. I think the second game of the season. She replaced Brittany Perea and absolutely fucked it up. She was horrible. Um, and the Denver Dream did horrible as well this year. I don't think there was one game that they really stood a chance in, and even if they kind of took the game down to the wire for a bit, I don't think there was still any point in time in that game where I thought, hey, maybe they could pull it out. It was bad. I'm pretty sure they went 0-4 to my knowledge. It was horrible. And with Rocky Mountain Bye, choose those three words because I think it's only a matter of time, much like the Omaha Heart, until the Denver Dream are liquidated in the in the LFL. I think it's only a matter of time before um, they move as a team or just get completely just disbanded altogether. I wouldn't be surprised. It's not a good team. I haven't seen anything good for them at all, good from them at all this season. I think their play has been horrible. I think their defense was atrocious. I think their offense was so goddamn lackluster. It was so bad, and I don't see a future for the Denver Dream in the LFL unless they can turn this around real quick. Next up, and I would say that this was the worst team in the uh, LFL's Eastern Conference. I would say the Omaha Heart. Yes, I know they took down the Chicago Bliss to the wire. It was the final game of the season, which they still had an opportunity for the playoffs, which you rarely see in the LFL. But with the Omaha Heart, my three-word or simple is dead in water. It's been a couple of years since Omaha was put into the league. They have done absolutely nothing long term. They haven't had much of an impact on the league itself. And on top of that, you've seen now, I mean, sure, they were able to take the Bliss down to the wire of the season and still fight for a playoff spot despite the fact that their coaching was pretty lackluster and their offense and defense weren't very great. It wasn't clean football that they were playing. It wasn't playoff caliber football, nor was it anything close to Legends Cup worthy football. And this Omaha team, I don't know whether it is the coaching or whether it's consistently the effort on the field. I don't know if it's both. I don't know if it's neither. I just know the fact that the Omaha Heart have not been a great addition into the LFL. And while with the Denver Dream, I find it that they could have a future in the LFL despite some pretty poor play on the field. I feel that way because they are in Denver. It's a high market. It's a sports market. You've got the Denver Nuggets, you've got the Denver Dream, of course. You've got the Denver Broncos, you've got the Colorado Rockies, and you've got the Colorado Avalanche. You've got in Denver, or at least very close to Denver, or at least in the state of Colorado, you have at least one team in every major four professional sport category in North America. It's a big market. It's by technicality, if you want to look at Denver and Colorado as a whole, but Denver mostly because Denver is pretty much Colorado at this rate. It's probably the only place in Colorado that you know off the top of your head without having to kind of think a little bit about. It's a bigger market than Seattle. It's a bigger market than Oklahoma City. It's a bigger market than Tampa. It's a bigger market than San Jose, San Francisco. It's a bigger market than Oakland. It's a bigger market. I mean, I would suggest that Denver is probably bested by very few markets in North America, or I'm sorry, very few markets in the United States. Probably Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Boston. Those are probably the big ones that can beat them out. Maybe Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, but I don't see anything else, being ahead of Denver. I can't even see Seattle being ahead of Denver as much as, while I hate the Seahawks, I love the city of Seattle. So when it comes down to Denver, I think they have a fighting chance. With Omaha, I don't think it's even the capital of Nebraska. I think Lincoln. No, I think Lincoln may be the capital of Nebraska, but you get the point. Omaha is probably the most notable city in Nebraska, but it's still Nebraska. I mean, I was born in Connecticut. I mean, I may be a New York guy now, but I was born in Connecticut, and we had nothing. We had to look back at old Whaler tapes just to see what it was like to have a competent pro sports team, and the closest we've got to now is, that you can't count collegiate or school based, because then we would just say UConn all day. The best we have are the fucking New Britain Rock Cats, or whatever they're called now. I think it's the Hartford Yard Goats or something like that, and that's in like Double A baseball or something like that. No, we stand no chance, and Omaha stands less of a chance. I see Denver having the opportunity for a fruitful run in the LFL because of the market that they are in, but Omaha, they don't have a good team. They don't have a great coaching staff. As a matter of fact, I would suggest that. I think Jacqueline Good. I would say that Jacqueline Good was given the starting quarterback spot on Omaha because she was married to one of the head coaching staff. That's never a good thing to have. And then on top of that, you're in a market like Omaha, which doesn't give you much life in the league to begin with. So I say dead in water. I think they and the Denver Dream are the two most likely candidates to be booted from the league in terms of poor play showing a failed venture into another city. All right, moving back into the West, I would suggest, and you can fault me on this, so on and so forth, because they are a playoff team, and me thinking that they are the third best out of four in the Western Conference, but I have the Los Angeles Temptation. And my three-word combination is LA Roadkill. I'll tell you this much. I love Tui Suinova, or however you pronounce his name. I'm not in the mood to try. Um, I like him. He's a great coach. I think he gets everybody on the same page when he needs to, and I think he's very competent. And I like him. I think he's detrimental in Los Angeles's success. But it's a team that all year long was struggling, just waiting by to see if their starting quarterback would come back to play. Their running offense was pretty dreaded in terms of the fact that it was not very good. Their quarterback play was marginalized at best, and the only reason it was even worth a damn was because all the players in that team still hoped that Ashley Salerno would come back and start at some point. That didn't happen. The defense was just a one individual show. There was no life in it, and that could be the same said for the offense. But at least with the defense, they kind of got their shit together a little bit. And call them a playoff team all you want. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, I strongly feel that the Seattle Mist should have gotten that spot. I think they would have been much better off than Los Angeles. And I say that much because when it comes down to it, and I'll get to Seattle in a minute, but with what Seattle was doing at the end of the season, sure, they ended at 1-3 the same way that Los Angeles did, but they were still a playoff caliber team. I think it was the slow start in Nashville to start the season and in Atlanta in the second week that really harbored them into what they would close the season out with. And I mean, it shows. Michelle Angel, their starting quarterback, and sometimes their individual they would put in safety at defense, won the league MVP. So you see what that team had to offer, and yet they still didn't make the playoffs. So that kind of says something. With Los Angeles, I just call it LA Roadkill. I think they will be in the league for the remainder of the league's existence, however long that may be and however fruitful that may be. I like the Los Angeles Temptation. They are a team filled with history, and probably the only team in the league left with a lot of history other than the Chicago Bliss, Seattle Mist, and Atlanta Steam, all of which we'll get to in a little bit. But with Los Angeles, I think for the moment, while they're in a rebuilding stage, I don't think they're really going to go with Tui Suinova for quite longer. I don't think he's going to be the head coach for next season. And at that point in time, you're going to have to look to see what you can do. Are you going to build around Ashley Salerno? Are you going to build around the 2 or 3 key pieces you have on defense? Because if so, you got to get your shit going then. I don't see that happening. I don't see this offseason being great, though, let's be honest, Nashville was able to turn into a playoff team from the offseason and free agency, so don't expect anything less from Los Angeles, especially a market like Los Angeles. But for the moment, while I don't see the offseason being very fruitful for Los Angeles, and I see the possibility of a lot of players regressing next year, I call them LA Roadkill. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team next year. I think I would probably put money on that for the moment. Give me a little bit of time to see how off-season free agency turn out, and then I'd probably put money down, but that's that. Next team in the Eastern Conference that I thought was the third best, second worst, As much as I hate it, because I love Dakota Hughes and I love everybody on the Atlantis team, just a great team overall. It's the Atlantis team, and my little 3-word combination is completely fucking screwed. There is a huge hole to fill with the emptiness at quarterback. That was a horrible sexual innuendo. You are looking at me as if I've got 10 heads and are trying to keep everything composed, not to laugh at 5 of them. God damn it. That was the worst, probably, that was the worst unintentional sexual innuendo I've ever had, in which I couldn't be able to say that's what she said because it would make it worse. So, thanks Michael Scott, you can't teach me everything. Not to mention it was Dakota Hughes as well that I was talking about. Damn it. Dakota Hughes is beautiful. All right, no sexual innuendos from me. She's great, fucking wonderful. Moving on, completely fucking screwed. Quarterback, you've got a void that you have to fill with a new quarterback. Dakota Hughes is left. You've had her for 7 years, or no, I think you. No, 5. I think it was 5 or 6 years, or something like that. But you had, for at the very least, 5 years. So you had a quarterback, a starting quarterback, capable of running a franchise for 5 years. You didn't have to worry about it. Now you have to worry about it. Dakota Hughes is gone, retired. She is not coming back, or at least as far as I'm aware. And the same can go for other key pieces of that team. Lauren Ziegler, of course. Dina Wojcicki, of course. They're big voids that you have to fill on the roster. And the Atlantis team roster wasn't very good this year to begin with. The only wins they got were over Seattle. And hell, that last game was one fucking bloodbath. But other than that, with those were the key pieces of your team that kept you in it for the majority of the season. And now they're gone as well. So I look at Seattle. I look at Atlanta and I think to myself, well, if the Omaha Heart improve next season, you're looking at Atlanta most likely being the worst team in the Eastern Conference. That's a big deal, especially the fact that that hasn't happened very often in the LFL, or at least in the team's run as a franchise in the LFL. So, completely fucking screwed. I don't see much hope for them next season, but, you can always see and wait to find out what happens, I guess. Now, the second best team in the Western Conference, in my opinion, is the Seattle Mist. And my 3-word combination is one-woman show. There is no doubt about it. Michelle Angel is the heart, life, blood, soul, and fucking life support of this team. The offense was great underneath her leadership. The defense was horrible. And the only time the defense was anything worth a damn was when they put their quarterback, again, Michelle Angel, league MVP, wonderful woman, at defense. You gotta question a team's defense when they're so, I don't want to say desperate in a bad way, but so desperate to get their defense on the same page that they put their star quarterback, their league MVP quarterback, in at defense. I mean, hell, she went down in the first game, and it didn't even look like she was getting back up. And then somehow she did. She's one tough motherfucker. I'll give her that much. But when it comes down to it, there's no telling what could have happened. They were fighting for a playoff spot down to the final game of the season. What happens if in Game 3 against, who did they play? Who did they play? Fuck. I think, it was the Acoustic. The third game of the season, which they beat the Acoustic, the Western Conference champions. In that third game, you could have just seen Michelle Angel on defense. Somebody falls wrong, and the entire front half of her right leg just completely shatters. And at that point in time, you lose your quarterback for the final game of the season, and you're completely fucked from the get-go. That's not good, especially when it's a player and an individual like Michelle Angel, who was able to fire up an offense and defense when without her, neither would fucking work. She went on to defense, and everything just clicked automatically. Everything was great. They were starting to make stops. The 3-and-outs were starting, or the 4-and-outs were starting to happen. You were starting to see more and more turnover, and she was able to lead that defense into a prosperous state where they were able to pull out a game, and they were able to pull out some plays that they wouldn't have been able to pull out had it not been for her. Oh, fuck you. And the sound guy, it's Dave. The sound guy, his name is Dave. I just call him Sound Guy. That's what I've called him since the get-go. He just started smiling at me, and out of the corner of my eye, I just see this whitest shit-eating grin. It's me saying pull out a million times, so fuck you, you dirty son of a bitch. Moving the fuck on, again, when it comes down to it, Michelle Angel was the big reason for why that defense succeeded. Michelle Angel was probably the only reason for why that offense succeeded. It's a one-woman show in Seattle, and I think they obviously need to build around her. I think she'll be around for quite a while. I mean, fucking trust me, that girl can take a hit like anybody. She can get blasted into the fucking second row. She can get blasted in the 22nd deck. It doesn't fucking matter. She'll just keep coming back. I don't think she's going to be done anytime soon. And unlike a lot of women in the league where I see retire at the late stages or mid to late stages of 20, I think she could be around for quite a while. And with that, and the fact that she's a complete franchise player that will, be able to strengthen any side of the ball that she's on and any position of the field that she's on, you need to start building around her. And you lost a lot of key pieces from Seattle to Nashville last season. Jade Randall, obviously, Danica Brace, KK Matheny, Stevie Schnorr, a lot of those individuals that you would have won the conference and the championship game with if you had them this year. But you don't have them anymore. You have Michelle Angel, which I think is a big step up from KK Matheny. But, nevertheless, now it's time to rebuild. Now it's time to build. You got to build around her, and I don't care what you have to do to get it done. Give her a competent wide receiver. Give her a competent running game. Get her offensive line going. Nicole Peterson can't hold off everybody on the offensive line. And, of course, get that defense under check. I mean, you were able to get away with it this year, but next year you may not be able to get away with putting your MVP in at defense, and then not only risk defensive fire getting stagnant and cold by her going down, but also your complete season and quarterback play. You can't always get lucky, so start building up that defense with players that can get the fucking job done, and you'll be able to succeed. But for right now, Seattle is a one-woman show. Then the second best team in the Eastern Conference, the Nashville Knights, KK Matheny, Danica Brace, Stevie Schnorr, Jade Randall, as I've said beforehand. Also Nene Gleaves, which I find is a fantastic halfback, especially for this league. My three-word combination is unproven and imported. Obviously, I just ran down the names that they had taken from Seattle twice now. So that settles the imported side of the ball, but also unproven. Their first game of the season was against a Seattle Mist team that had not gelled, that they had pretty much ransacked in terms of talent. It was a completely different Seattle team than beforehand, and they were just trying to get their wits about them. So that was a pretty easy start. I believe they played Denver. I believe they played Omaha, and I think they played Atlanta, but I'm not very sure. If they did, then Atlanta was their only other actual competition. You cannot sit here and tell me that a game against the Dream, a game against the Heart, and a game against a completely out of sync Seattle Mist team warrants such a high praise for 4-0. The only reason I thought they had a chance against Chicago in the round, in the Eastern Conference Championship was because of the momentum that they took with them from the regular season. And also, on top of all of that, just the sheer amount of fucking firepower that they have. The one weakness they had was in their secondary, and as long as Chicago was able to exploit that, which they did, they were walking out with a win. Their run game was fucking brilliant. Their passing game was fantastic. The offensive line play was great. Defense was great. They just had not been proven against a real team. Chicago was a real team, and that's why Chicago are now the Eastern Conference champions. So with Nashville, it's unproven and imported. You got to keep kind of building upon things. I hope KK Matheny comes back next season. She's always been my favorite quarterback in the league. Sorry, Michelle, but with KK Matheny, it's kind of a case of just you have her. You got Jade Randall. You've got Stevie Schnorr. You've got Nene Gleaves. You've got just a great building block. This is a team led by Danica Brace at head coach and the former Seattle Miss Genius. Why am I blanking on his name? You get the fucking point. It's a team that you need to kind of build with. It's a team that is not championship caliber yet, no matter how many downfield bombs they can chuck in a game. It's a case of this team needs to build. It's not a championship winning team yet. And I think next season, with the right moves, the right additions, it absolutely can. Brett Michelson, that's his name. And then, of course, we move into the Western Conference champions, the Austin Acoustic. My 2-word combination is one-sided. It is a team that, on offense, is great. Leilani Lopez is great. Tashay Winfrey is fantastic. She can flip her game at the drop of a dime. But the defense is wretched. It can't stop anything through the air. It can't stop any run game for less than 7. I think it was 7 yards a game, or 7 yards up a run or an attempt. That's not good. That's horrible. And when it comes down to it, that's not going to win a championship. That's the biggest reason for why Chicago is going to win this Saturday. I can tell you that for sure. There's no way in hell that Chicago, with how great of a team it's been altogether, there's no way Chicago falls to a one-sided Acoustic team. There's no way the offense on the Acoustic side of the ball just throws Chicago all out of whack that they can't get back. That's not going to happen. Austin's a one-sided team. Glad they made it to the, I was going to say Spalding Ball. I'm an idiot. The Legends Cup this year, but they're not walking out with it. I can almost assure you of that. They could absolutely do so next season if they strengthen that defense, but aside from that, there's not much hope. It's a one side of the ball team, and there's little else to say about that. I gotta get through the Chicago Bliss soon because I'm being told we need to run through the ad. So, Chicago Bliss, 3-word combination, is all cylinders firing. The Eastern Conference champions, and whom I expect to be the Legends Cup champions. Offense is fantastic. Run game has been great, even without Christelle Harris. The quarterback play with Jane Caldwell has been fantastic. The receivers have been on point. The defense has been locked down, both in the running game and in the passing game. And there's just no weakness to the Chicago Bliss overall. It's a fantastic team. It's a fantastic squad. It's been doing fantastic work since really the start of the season. And it's probably the best team in the league right now. So with that, there's little denying. Let's run through it one more time. Austin Acoustic, one-sided. Chicago Bliss, all cylinders firing. Seattle Mist, one-woman show. Nashville Knights, unproven and imported. Los Angeles Temptation, LA Roadkill. Atlanta Steam, completely fucking screwed. Denver Dream, Rocky Mountain Bye, and Omaha Heart, dead in the water. The Hardy Complex, back in 120. Stay tuned.